Man, you want to talk about doing something last possible second. If I keep this up, the next time I do a prediction, it might be released the same day as the actual episode. But what can I say? I'm a working adult and sometimes life just gets away from you. And with the little free time I have, I've either been playing Silent Hill 2, Slitterhead, or working on my personal training goals. On the plus side though, I am setting new personal records, so I am pretty happy with that. In the little time I have been putting towards this YouTube channel, I've mostly been working on refining a script for my next Superman scaling video. And overall, I'm pretty happy with it. And I'm hoping to have that released Thanksgiving week. So if that's the sort of thing you come here for, well, you got that to look forward to. And since the last episode of Death Battle has been feeling a little Joe-Jover for us Jorno supporters, can't really say I'm surprised by that, but my prediction record is now 1-1, so I'm hoping I can improve that here. So let's talk about the next Death Battle, Bowser vs. Eggman. It's another big one for the community, though I don't imagine this one to be nearly as contentious as the last two, which is probably for the best. Death Battle now seems to be falling into a pattern. One match from their Kickstarter campaign and then one not mentioned in it, so I'm expecting to be surprised with their next one after this. As for this fight, and this is another reason it probably took me a while to get this video out, I don't really care all that much about it. Yes, I have some nostalgia for Bowser because I played Mario games when I was a kid, and when it comes to Sonic, I think I've played one or two of the games. I believe I played Sonic Adventures at some point. I'm mostly familiar with him, Eggman that is, through the adaptations. And I am a big comic book guy, so I have read some of the Archie Sonic comics, which I sort of enjoyed, but I'd be lying if I said I was well versed in them. But I understand why a lot of people are excited. After all, these are really big names and franchises with massive fan bases, so I thought I'd still give my 2 cents for what it's worth. That way I can also keep playing the how well can I predict this game. It's just that I really don't know how either of them scale, like at all. Only that accepted scaling for both of them has really escalated over the years, which seems to be a common trend for versus debating, especially over the past few years. I liken it to an arms race, where fans are scouring lore and lines for possible upgrades for characters they like, to match others who do the same for characters that they enjoy. It's sort of become an unending game of, well, what about this feat? For example, I have heard some people say that Bowser is massively faster than light and possibly multiversal. And I have heard that Sonic has things like erased timelines and infinite speed, but I couldn't tell you for sure because I haven't played the games to experience that in context. So I thought about examining this prediction in a few different ways. Because as I said before in these videos, I'm trying to predict how Death Battle is going to examine the matchup and not really do the matchup myself. Well, we can't really go by a turns-based logic. After all, Death Battle doesn't really seem to have a pattern with that. Just because Sonic lost his match to Mario and Bowser lost his matchup doesn't mean they're going to give Bowser a match they think he can win. After all, they've even had the Hulk lose twice. I've also never bought into conspiracies that Death Battle chooses a popular character to win, or worse, that they make them lose for clicks. I maintain anyone that thinks that should leave their bubble and touch grass. Looking at previous episodes also won't help me, because just like that War of Escalation I mentioned, Death Battle has evolved in what they are willing to use. And they don't retroactively change their verdicts. And even what they are sometimes willing to accept can be finicky. They do often grant the benefit of the doubt when it comes to feats, unless there is an obvious counter-argument or one they think is clever. From there, I usually go by, who has more sources to draw from, because a lot of times, the more sources you have, the more BS you can pull out of your butt to justify a verdict. But both of these characters have just so many appearances, I'm not sure even that's really gonna matter all that much. It's just gonna be who has the best one thing. It's a real pickle. Here we have a matchup that's popular, but I don't really know anything about. And it's hard for me to point to any previous examples of what I think they're gonna use. We do know that they're compositing games and giving them pretty much everything for this battle. but other media is being kind of left in the wayside. So no Archie Sonic, no Monkey Ray, but at least we're getting some awesome armies for both of them. But then that had me like, armies? I know even less about them. But in the end, I'm not sure the armies are going to matter all that much. Save maybe one or two things. No, if I was going to make a prediction, I was going to have to go and do research. Yes, research. While I do outlines for my videos, I try not to dive into other people's power scalings for characters. If you watch my Superman content, you know I think it's real important to have the actual source in front of you for stuff like that. Otherwise, you sometimes create an unintentional bias by letting others' interpretations influence you, and doing that can set you up for disappointment. And I just don't have the time or desire to play every Sonic and Mario game. So that means I'm going to have to be relying on the work and opinions of others. Not that there's anything wrong with that, by the way, please don't misunderstand my position. It's just that when I talk about these things, that's what I like to be able to do. But I understand not everyone has the time for that, and that's why, power scaling content is a thing. So I read wikis, I checked out YouTube videos, which completely warped my recommended list. I even messaged a few mutuals who know these characters better than I do. Full disclosure, it was a 2-to-1 Sonic ratio there, so take that for what you will. And this process has me thinking one of these characters is looking a little screwed. With that all said and done, I came up with sort of a proto-stat allocation. The real issue with both of these characters is they have such wide ranges from their low to their high ends. Though I do feel Eggman is probably going to take speed and intelligence pretty handily, depending on what source you want to use again. With his high ends, reaching infinite speeds and being a scientist capable of, building WMDs that would make Dr. Wily blush. But honestly, to me, his high ends make it look like he's also going to be taking things like durability, attack potency, and maybe even versatility. That one's really up in the air for me. And that leaves Bowser with maybe experience just simply based on the number of games he's been in. Though I would like to say that if you're going with more mid-ends, it seems like Bowser has, better consistency with that. His Sonic scaling really just seems all over the place to me. But sometimes that can be advantageous, especially in a death battle verdict. That being said, you could argue that both of their high-ends are more circumstantial, but I'd just be really surprised if we didn't see them come up. This all being said, and I don't even really think I buried the lead here, but my official prediction is Eggman. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is a big surprise. I don't really know if this scaling is contentious or not, but it does look like Eggman is going to take most, if not all, the major categories. And knowing Death Battle, and I've said this before, being faster than your opponent is one thing, but being faster and smart enough to properly utilize that advantage can be a whole other thing. So I just didn't really have a hot take for this one. No clever way I thought they might analyze the fight. Both characters seem to have reality warping high ends, so maybe there's something in there I'm just a little bit ignorant of. And if so, feel free to tell me in the comments, I'd love to know. But from the minimal research I did, it just seemed that one character had that and better stats with his high ends. So I guess you could call this me rooting for Bowser, but betting on Eggman. And maybe this wasn't the most fun way to think about the battle, but it's what I got. But tell me your thoughts. Who do you think's gonna win? Was my research complete BS? Because that's always possible when you don't go to the source yourself. Can you make an argument for Bowser or bring Eggman down a peg? Or is your money and heart on the mad scientist? I do appreciate every comment I get, and I try to respond to each and every one when I have time. If you enjoyed this nonsense, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, all of that silly nonsense. Share it with your friends and start an argument. That's been Daniel with truth, justice, and all of that nonsense. I'll catch you after the battle. And maybe my next prediction won't be the weekend before it airs.